Al-Barnawi is out. Now Malam Bako is out.
National Security Council assesses war on crime in the country.
Designed to kit and tool unemployed youths and develop their competencies.
Federal government launches new empowerment scheme, mobile money agent.
The EOD of the police and the policemen of Ijaw Railway Police Division has gone to have a first-hand information of what has happened.
Security beefed up following Thursday attack on Abuja Kaduna train. Plus, trial of leader of proscribed IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, continues. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on NTA Network News. I'm Cyril Stover in Abuja. Hingino John Adams joins us from our Lagos studio. We start off now on a security note, as the National Security Council has expressed absolute confidence in the ability of the nation's armed forces and other security services to fully restore normalcy in Nigeria's security situation before the tenure of the Buhari presidency elapses. The National Security Advisor, Babagana Munguno, made clear this optimism after the Council's meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari was unequivocal while addressing the nation's security chiefs early this year that he is not prepared to hand over a security-challenged Nigeria to his successor. Criminal elements undermining national security and stability, he said, be decisively dealt with in the language they understand. This meeting of the National Security Council was therefore convened to look at how far so far in the task of restoring normalcy in the security situation. After the review meeting that lasted about 5 hours, the National Security Advisor, Babagana Munguno, told journalists that the council members were satisfied with the achievements recorded so far, which they described as unprecedented and reassuring.
The land forces have done an excellent job because in the span of 1 month, we've been able to take out the leadership of the Islamic State West Africa province, Abu Musab al-Barnawi. 2 days ago, the man who succeeded him, one Malam Bako, who is also one of the prominent leaders of the Shura Council of the Islamic State West Africa province, was also taken out, which means basically Shekau is out, Abu al-Barnawi is out, now Malam Bako is out. They're also contending with leadership, and you know these things are also accompanied by a lot of inherent issues of trust, conflict, mutual suspicion and other things.
The achievements of the land forces, he said, have been reinforced by the Nigerian Air Force, who carried out a lot of interdiction missions in support of the various operations in the North Central, Northwest, Southeast and South-South.
I can tell you on authority that the Nigerian Navy has recorded so much success in the maritime domain. In the third quarter of this year, there has not been a single incident of piracy or sea robbery in our entire maritime domain. This has been acknowledged by the International Maritime Bureau. On the 14th of July, they sent out a dispatch that in the last 27 years, the entire international community, the maritime community, has not experienced the type of success that has been recorded by the Nigerian Navy. And this was also endorsed by the Defense Web.
The council members also noted with satisfaction the performance of the intelligence services.
Only 2 days ago, the DSS was able to apprehend and take in the successor of the notorious gangster in Benue State known as Ghana, Chekere Kefa's Andofa. His other name is Azonto. And as soon as he was apprehended by the DSS, his own successor was arrested also about 16 hours ago. Of course, President Buhari, in as much as he's satisfied with the actions of our defense and security forces, has also urged them not to relent. He has stated clearly that we must bring this thing to an end.
The National Security Advisor disclosed that about 15,900 combatant and non-combatant ISWAP and Boko Haram returnees from the theater of operations are now being profiled for the next line of action. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
In the meantime, President Buhari has directed the armed forces and other security services in the country not to leave anything to chance towards ensuring that the forthcoming Anambra governorship election is conducted on schedule and peacefully too. The President gave the directive at the resumed meeting of the National Security Council. Here again is State House correspondent Adamu Sambu with the details.
Usually conducted on quarterly basis, the meeting of the National Security Council is now held virtually monthly in response to the challenges of security in parts of the country. At this latest engagement, attended by Vice President Emi Oshibanjo, several ministers, service chiefs and heads of other security services, issues relating to the forthcoming Anambra governorship election were critically analyzed. As the election, scheduled for November 6, draws near, there are strong fears of uncertainty in the political environment following recent attacks on institutions of government as well as individuals by gunmen. But presiding over this meeting of the National Security Council, President Muhammadu Buhari directed the armed forces and other security services to do whatever it takes towards ensuring that the Anambra governorship election is conducted peacefully and that the votes of the electorate must also count.
The President has directed that under no circumstances will anything be allowed to stop the elections from taking place successfully. The people have a right to vote. They have a right to select their leader, and no group or individual will be allowed to stimulate anarchy and chaos leading to murderous activities. The President has made it very, very clear that any action that is outlandish, any action that typifies roguery, the usurpation of the authority of the state is not going to be tolerated.
And we want to assure the people of Anambra State and indeed all Nigerians that the government is committed to conducting that elections and it has to be free and fair. We are going to put every machinery in place to ensure that people are well secured, and we are going to dominate the place to ensure that this place is calm and quiet to provide for a free and fair elections, and that is the only way to ensure that we promote democracy and good governance in this country.
The National Security Council has made it very clear that sense of crisis will not be allowed to pervade the political environment, as the people of Anambra will be given adequate protection to exercise their franchise without let or hindrance. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Then, speaking of electoral matters, the National Assembly Conference Committee on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021 has commenced harmonization of the two versions of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill passed by both chambers of the National Assembly. Correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports.
In July this year, both chambers of the National Assembly passed different versions of the Electoral Act 2010 Amendment Bill. Then, October 12th, Senate rescinded its decision on some of the clauses, especially on the electronic transmission of election results and mode of primaries for political parties. Before then, both chambers had constituted a conference committee that will harmonize the differences in the versions passed by both chambers. The committee has now commenced work.
We are going to come up in a short while a comprehensive that will address fundamental and germane issue of our electoral process in this country.
Also to respond to the earnings of Nigerians. Whatever Nigerians want, that can really entrench our democracy and make it work. It's what the National Assembly is for.
Less than 500 days to the 2023 general elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission, civil society organizations, and the European Union expect the National Assembly to conclude works on the amendment process, which, among other issues, will ensure provision of legal backing for electoral technology, stiffer penalties for offenses, and strengthen financial independence of the electoral body.
The issue of technology has dominated recent public discussions in Nigeria. The Commission appreciates the decision of the National Assembly to empower INEC to determine and deploy appropriate technology in future elections.
So much can happen with collaboration and from listening to citizens, and this committee and this joint committee as well has done so much to do so.
The electronic transmission of results will improve oversight of the results collation process.
The process for amendment of this bill started in the 7th Assembly. Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
The Future Assured initiative of Nigeria's First Lady, Ijaw, has made significant impact towards supporting women, youths and children in the country through the various intervention programs. Now, 6 years down the line, the First Lady and other well-meaning individuals from within and outside the country have converged on Abuja to celebrate the success story of the foundation and to look inward towards doing more for the benefit of women and children. State House correspondent Aliu Kabir reports.
Since inception in 2015, education, health and the general well-being of women and children and other vulnerable groups are the major concern of the First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari. The First Lady, through the Aisha Buhari Foundation and Future Assured, engaged in various advocacy and partnership with various ministries, departments and agencies of government and other non-governmental organizations from within and outside the country to facilitate the better life for women and children. The program has touched the lives of millions of Nigerian women, youth and children, cutting across the length and breadth of this country. Areas of focus include reproductive, maternal, newborn, child and adolescent health as well as malnutrition. Other areas of great concern include education and intervention of women and youth empowerment scheme to alleviate their suffering as well as the concern of the education of a girl child. For instance, the establishment of the maternity hospital in Daura, Katsina State, and Yola in Adamawa, as well as the Future Assured College in Maiduguri, and the tutorial classes for WAEC and NECO, and many other interventions across Nigeria, including the succor to the IDPs and the COVID-19 interventions, are few of many reasons for celebration. Having achieved this milestone in 6 years, the First Lady is optimistic that more needs to be done, taking into cognizance the contribution of all stakeholders.
The review of Future Assured activities is to provide more insight to the major achievements made over the years. My appeal, therefore, to partners and other stakeholders not to relent on efforts and support. Your commitment and support to Future Assured remains important in deepening our collective commitment and investment to the development of this country.
The Vice President has commended the foresight of the First Lady and assured her of the continuous support of the government at all times.
This is as it should be. The very future of Nigeria and the very future of our communities depends on how well we address the many concerns of women and children in our communities, especially the three focal areas that Future Assured has identified: health, education, and empowerment, and economic empowerment. And we agree with Future Assured's belief that all social indices can be influenced if the health, education, and economic status of the population are improved upon.
Other stakeholders follow suit.
In that regard, we have enjoyed tremendous support from Her Excellency, the First Lady, and from the foundation team to drive health sector initiatives.
While assuring the public that she will not relent in her advocacy, the First Lady emphasized the need for all stakeholders to maintain the spirit towards uplifting the living standards of women, youth, and children. From the State House, Aliu Kabir, NTA News.
More than 1 billion naira worth of illicit drugs and assets have been seized by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency since the coming on board of the new management. Chairman of the agency, Brigadier General Muhammad Buba Marwa, says with the achievements recorded in the renewed war against drug abuse and trafficking of illicit substances, it is clear that a drug-free Nigeria is possible. State House correspondent Gideon Ifadi reports.
A nation's greatest assets are its youth. And there is no doubt about the impact and contribution of the youth to nation building. This short documentary shows that the lives of some of the youth are being threatened, while some are being turned into criminals through the abuse of drugs of various kinds.
Abuse has destroyed and continues to destroy families, our youths, communities, and society. It is also behind most criminalities in Nigeria today.
More than 10.6 million people are said to be on drug.
As of October 15th, the agency has recorded over 9,000 arrested traffickers, including 6 drug barons. Over 5,000 drug offenses cases have been filed in court. Over 100 billion naira worth of drugs and cash have been recovered. More than 2.7 million kilograms of assorted illicit drugs were seized. And 5,579 drug users were counseled and rehabilitated by NDLEA.
The fight against drug abuse and trafficking of illicit substance in Nigeria has not been this tense. The fight is in full swing, says Buba Marwa, the chairman of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, as he briefs the press on the achievements of the agency.
The efforts has to be continuing and redoubled down to the grassroots on advocacy and sensitization in families, communities, school systems. The media have a very important role to play.
Buba Marwa says the agency's achievement is anchored on the commitment of the federal government, cooperation of states, and support from partners. He says the agency looks forward to the future with optimism.
Nobody will respect.
In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
We'll take a short break now. The rest of the news continues shortly. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. President Muhammadu Buhari has commended the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, for his hard work and commitment in the handling of state matters, which led to the success of the just concluded midterm ministerial performance review retreat. The President, in a letter he personally signed, attributed the success of the retreat to the diligence of the SGF, as well as the entire staff of the Cabinet Affairs Office, saying the ministerial retreat was something to be proud of. The retreat was organized to review the level of implementation of the ministerial mandates along the 9 priority areas, identify key impediments to implementation, and re-strategize on how to accelerate delivery of results. And turning to health now, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency has flagged off oral vaccination against cholera in the 3 worst hit areas in Jigawa State. Ibrahim Bellogunda reports that Emir of Dutse, Dr. Nuhu Muhammad Sunusi, launched the exercise in Dutse.
Jigawa State suffered the outbreak of cholera disease recently, infecting over 20,000 people with many deaths recorded in Dutse, Hadeja and Birnin Kudu areas. Although the situation has been brought under control, the vaccination is targeting over 900,000 adults and children to avert similar outbreak. The Emir of Dutse, while flagging off the exercise, highlighted the need for the vaccination for the safety of all and enjoined the public to be hygienic.
Part of the thing is to demonstrate to the people that this vaccine is safe, and that's why I and all the other dignitaries here took the vaccine to show the public that it is not harmless.
The vaccination is expected to be expanded to other parts of the state. From Dutse, Ibrahim Bellogunda, NTA News.
The global pandemic has changed the world entirely in the last 2 years, from the way we live, and there's now a popular new normal of some protocols, including social distancing, frequent hand washing, and disinfecting with sanitizers. Well, a big breakthrough was made with the production of vaccines and their certification. But there are still questions about these vaccines, and people keep asking so many questions. At this point, let's bring in our guest to speak on some issues surrounding COVID-19 vaccines. Let's welcome Mariam Aminu, a professor of virology, head department of microbiology, and also Deputy Dean of Faculty of Life Sciences, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Thanks for joining us on Network News.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
The breakthrough that has been achieved with the production of vaccines and their certification, still there are skeptics who think otherwise about these vaccines. Quickly, what is responsible for this?
I guess it has to do with the vaccine vectors and social media, what is going on, all the people that put on fake news about the vaccines and all that is going on in the social media. The vaccines have been proven to be safe. They are very, very effective. And where they have been used, it has reduced the incidence of COVID-19 greatly.
Okay. But then we've seen cases of people who have been vaccinated and who still succumb to this pandemic. A very recent one is a high-profile individual who's speaking of General Colin Powell of the U.S., who was reported to have died of complications from COVID-19, and it was also reported that he had received his double vaccination.
Thank you, Cyril. Colin Powell, even though he has been fully vaccinated, he had an underlying ailment. He had multiple myeloma, which is cancer of some of the cells, red blood cells. And because of that, those that are fully vaccinated, and if you are immunocompromised, you will not be able to produce adequate enough protection against the virus. You can get reinfected. That is what happened in this case. And age and underlying ailment is those are among the factors that leads to this breakthrough infection which he had. Those that have been infected, if you are immunocompromised, you can be reinfected if people around you are not adequately vaccinated.
That's important here for you to re-emphasize this for us. Quite a number of people go around feeling they've taken their vaccination and they let down their guard and just go ahead and say, no, they can't catch it. Is there anything that says because you've been vaccinated, you cannot be infected and you cannot die of COVID?
Yeah. Vaccines are meant to reduce severity of infection so that when you are infected, you will not be hospitalized, you will not die. It does not mean that you cannot be infected if you are vaccinated. No vaccine is 100% effective. Some vaccines, majority of the vaccines are 90-something% effective. It does not mean that individual will not be infected. It means that you will not get infected so much that you have the complication and you will die. And when you are infected, you are supposed to also continue to use the non-pharmaceutical protection, maintain the distance so that you will not spread the virus to others. That is the major aim of being vaccinated, to reduce the severity, hospitalization and death, and spread of the virus to others that are vulnerable.
All right. Now, the federal government has issued an advisory to civil servants to be fully vaccinated. You think this is going to help reduce the incidence of people contracting COVID-19?
Yes. What the federal government wants to do is to achieve herd immunity. Herd immunity is when large proportion of the individual or population are vaccinated so much that others become protected, others that are not vaccinated. If government is saying that people to get vaccinated, we want to protect the vulnerable, those that are at risk in the population, so that virus transmission will be halted. If large number of individuals are vaccinated, those that are at risk, those that are vulnerable, like those ones that are immunocompromised, they will not be infected and will not have the death rate that we are seeing among the unvaccinated individuals. Because in the US and other countries where there are data, the number of hospitalized individuals, 80% of those individuals are those that are not vaccinated. And those that have this breakthrough transmission, that they are those that are immunocompromised. So the vaccine, what it's supposed to do is to reduce and break the chain so that others that are not going to be vaccinated, like the children, will be protected.
Okay.
That's what it means.
Well, thank you very much, Mariam Aminu, Professor of Virology, Head Department of Microbiology, and Deputy Dean, Faculty of Life Sciences, ABU Zaria. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Right. And in other news, 1,850 youths across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory are to be trained to become mobile money agents as part of efforts to empower unemployed youths. Ruth Aguele reports that the program was flagged off in Abuja by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, under the National Social Investment Programs.
It's a big day for Hope Okoro, who has hoped for a better life for quite a long time. Today, her life is about to change, as she is among those to be trained as a mobile money agent. An experience, she says, will put her in a competitive market for positive growth.
It will help me because so many things I've not gotten myself involved in. I'll try getting myself involved in it now.
Just like Hope, these young Nigerians are to be trained as mobile money agents by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development in collaboration with the Shared Agent Network Expansion Facilities, SANEF, a financial enabler to the financial inclusion ecosystem through agent banking. The initiative is under the National Social Investment Program to provide employment opportunities for unemployed youths.
The program is designed to kit and tool unemployed youths and develop their competencies to operate as registered mobile money agents. We hope that this program will provide job opportunities to the 1,850 youths selected from the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, as well as promote financial inclusion.
Our role in providing financial literacy training and awareness for participants here today will allow the participants to learn the rudiments and the dynamics of providing financial services.
This training, at least I know more of self-reliance.
This is your office, right?
With the flag off in the FCT, beneficiaries will be provided with startup kits, which include point-of-sale machine, fingerprint scanner, furniture, and a startup capital of 20,000 naira, with the hope that this initiative will improve livelihoods of the beneficiaries. In Abuja, Ruth Aguele, NTA News.
10 Nigerian startups are participating in one of the globe's most influential tech shows, Gulf Information Technology Exhibition, holding at the Dubai World Trade Center. ICT correspondent Joseph Johnson reports that this year's theme, Creating a Bolder Digital Future Together, is in sync with Nigeria's digital quest.
Having identified GITEX as a major platform to promote Nigeria's indigenous technologies in the global market, and of course, despite the setback of not being able to participate fully in the activities from day one due to apparently yet to be resolved issues surrounding Emirates' halted operations in the country, the team is here once again with Nigerian startups, about 10 of them, to engage with offshore stakeholders in fostering the country's non-oil exports and, of course, its journey to achieving a sustainable digital economy.
So far, so good. Our startups have arrived and they have started networking. We have seen some investors visiting the stands,
So you're saying being short of some days wouldn't affect the expected gains from here?
Yeah, not really, because today and tomorrow is enough for them to network.
They may have lost a few days, but not their resilient spirit, for which Nigerians are known for. I am determined to make an impact, even if it's for a day. Edet, the new kid in the block, tells me. A determination I observed is mutually shared by his fellow startups.
It's a work in progress. We're looking at the bright side, and we believe that things will work out for the better tomorrow.
I'm fully prepared, and I believe that we're going to pitch our ideas to investors, to strategic partners.
Edet and hundreds of young startups and innovators from across the world who have shared ideas on AI, 5G, and many more will go back with something new and a challenge to do even more for the ever-evolving world. From the World Trade Center, Joseph Johnson, NTA News.
The Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is to collaborate with the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to boost rubber production in the country. This commitment was made at the 2021 National Rubber Conference in Abuja. Speaking on the theme, Industrialization of the Rubber Subsector in Nigeria, participants recalled the loss of employment and income to newcomer countries in the rubber sector, amounting to 400 million jobs with an annual income of $160 billion, where they say Nigeria, from producing 90,000 tons per annum, dropped to 66,500 tons, showing a 26.1% decrease in natural rubber production, a situation they say is reversible.
Formation and sustainable execution, finance and cooperation from all stakeholders here present, inclusive, of course, of the Central Bank and the Bank of Industries. I humbly recommend the revision and adoption of RMRD's roadmap for the development of the sector as a national working document to expedite the industrialization of the rubber sector in Nigeria.
I'm therefore calling on the states of Edo, Delta, Ondo, Ogun, Abia, Anambra, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Ebonyi, Abia, and Bayelsa states to form a strong platform towards taking rubber to the next level.
We will not relent in supporting our farmers with necessary inputs and building their capacities in good agricultural practices.
Our cooperation in that sector, as well as in other sectors, can be benefit for all of us.
Our association, NAPMAN, can provide 480,000 direct and 40,000 indirect employment from plantation establishment alone.
The leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra has been rearraigned at the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja before Justice Binta Nyako on an amended charge preferred against him by the federal government. Omenka Amarachuku has the report.
All entrances leading to the courtroom were barricaded by the combined team of security operatives comprising the DSS, police, army, and the civil defense. The leader of the indigenous people of Biafra was brought in around 10 o'clock in the morning amidst tight security. Though some journalists were denied access to the courtroom, the IPOB leader was, however, rearranged on a 7-count charge bordering on terrorism and treasonable felony. When the plea was read, he pleaded not guilty to the charges. Counsel to the defendant, Ijaw, however, filed an application challenging the amendment charge preferred against him.
As you see, he was in court today, and we believe that justice will prevail in the end. So that's all that has happened today in court.
Defendant counsel application seeking transfer of his client from DSS custody to Kuje prison was turned down by the court. Nnamdi Kanu was arrested in Kenya and brought to the court after he jumped bail in 2017. The matter has been adjourned to November 10th for further hearing.
Meanwhile, the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory has ordered that the former chairman of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund, Ngozi Olejime, be remanded in EFCC custody following her abuse of office resulting in 3 billion naira. In Abuja, Umeka Marchuku, NTA News.
Security personnel and railway experts have been mobilized to the site of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack by unidentified persons. Correspondent Uyinnaya Kaluoka gives an update.
The train left Ijaw station in Abuja by 6 p.m. on this fateful day of the 20th October, approaching kilometer 148 between Rijana and Duse by 8 o'clock in the night. A strange sound was heard and the rest was history. It was confirmed by officials of the Nigerian Railway Corporation (NRC) that it was an attack by unidentified persons. There was an explosion on the rail track that affected the fuel tank of the locomotive. Although no life was lost, some of the drivers sustained injury and are being treated at the hospital. Backup train was dispatched around 12:15 in the morning to get passengers safely to Kaduna. A visit at the Ijaw and Kubwa station shows that activities were paralyzed.
Everybody no happy because no work, no anything. We just sit down, I think understand.
Besides few railway staff, only a passenger who was not aware of the situation was cited.
Then I heard that we could not travel after we have booked. Myself and my family, we have booked the train for Ijaw in Abuja. We have to tighten security to ensure that people going on board are scrutinized before they get in.
The Nigerian Railway Corporation has mobilized security personnel and rail experts to the site and train movements cancelled till further notice.
The EOD of the police and the policemen of Ijaw Railway Police Division has gone to to have a first-hand information of what has happened, and our men from the engineering departments are mobilized to go and rectify whatever problem that has occurred.
For passengers who have purchased tickets already, NRC says it will be taken care of once movement resumes. Uyinnaya Kaluoka, NTA News.
The Federal Road Safety Corps can now monitor happenings on the highways as a way of mitigating physical confrontations between its personnel and motorists. This follows inauguration of the Corps Operations Monitoring and Control Center alongside installation of cameras on patrol vehicles and on personnel in the field. Oyeyemi Ajayi has details.
For some time, there have been complaints of misconduct by security personnel, including the Federal Road Safety Corps on the highways. It now seems that the Federal Road Safety Corps has found a solution to this challenge with the inauguration of its Operations Monitoring and Control Center, which will provide real-time information on activities of the men on the highways.
And now we are covering, once we finish this inauguration, we are going to deploy the cameras to Lagos, Asaba, for the end of the year patrol, those very strategic places. And in our budget for this year too, once we get the capital release, we continue to expand.
The vehicle cameras, with the capacity to capture 180 degrees, is a dual camera immediately viewable at the control center, which is situated at the Corps' headquarters. The 3-year target is for all patrol personnel and vans to become camera leading. This is expected to ensure not just better road safety management, but also safety of the officers and men.
The President takes special pleasure in welcoming initiatives like this because they add value to human existence.
They reckon that it will add value to road safety efforts in the country. In Abuja, Oyeyemi Ajayi, NTA News.
In time to go over to Lagos and link up with Hingino for more reports. Hingino.
Thank you, Cyril. Nigeria will retain in-country about $300 million paid annually for the importation of barite as the country finalizes plans to be self-sufficient in supply of the commodity to oil and gas industry. Minister of Mines and Steel Development Olamilekan Adegbite stated this at the first Southwest Conference on mobilizing domestic mining investment for sustainable economic growth. Abolade Salami reports.
From records, Nigeria is enriched with over 40 types of minerals, including gold, marble, silver, granite, gemstones, bentonite, and iron ore. The mining and solid mineral sector of the extractive industry, no doubt, is a viable source of cash flow if properly harnessed for economic value, and factors mitigating its growth addressed. In walking the talk, regulators, industry players, and investors at this brainstorming session are comparing notes on how domestic mining can pay off in sustainability of the economy.
What we are doing now as a pilot program, government is building a kaolin processing plant in Bauchi as we speak. We are building this. So once this is built, we'll be able to process kaolin. We don't have to go abroad. Then we'll sell to the pharmaceutical industries in Nigeria. If we're able to process them locally, all the value is retained in Nigeria.
While the federal government has taken a pragmatic approach to operate Nigerian economy beyond oil, concerned authorities submitted that mining must be pursued with full vigor to add more value to the nation's gross domestic products.
In addition to local use, a significant number of these mineral resources, phosphate and bitumen, have proven to have export value, either as raw deposits or processed outputs.
In order to make the business environment friendly for both foreign and local investors, as well as the risk investments in the sector, and create ecosystem for ease of doing business, the regulatory body says plans are underway to introduce digital service platforms to boost efficiency and transparency. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
The Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Talon, is reiterating the commitment of the federal government to advancing gender equality, women's economic empowerment and child protection, as these are the crucial components of the change agenda of President Muhammadu Buhari. The minister disclosed this in her message to a 4-day retreat supported by the Development Research and Project Center, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and other partners as part of efforts to improve cooperation, collaboration, and synergy among stakeholders working on women and children-related issues. Michael Olale has details.
Over time, there has been much talk about women empowerment and emancipation, but with little results to show for the efforts. The target of this retreat is to change the spectrum of intervention by bringing development partners to interface with the Ministry of Women Affairs towards harmonizing various approaches for better delivery.
The government is here, stakeholders are here, some of these women are here, we are deliberating, we are bringing heads together to see, with monitoring and evaluation, how the narrative can change.
To the Ministry of Women Affairs, this is the first but crucial step in the quest to achieving the mandate of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty.
Now taking out the bull at the horn to say no, let's collaborate to make sure that what budgetary provision has, these ones can help us to collaborate with us, to cooperate with us in providing additional source of funding.
This, however, will be a boost to the objectives of the Partnership for Advancing Women in Economic Development, especially in the area of creating awareness on the effectiveness of policies, programs, and strategies to promote women empowerment.
So we want to see increased budget on women's economic empowerment issues because when you empower people, you see the ripple effect flows from there.
Since the specific areas of needs are now known, the intervention will assist partners like the Development Research and Project Center and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to leverage an existing synergy towards solving some of the pressing demands of women. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NTA News.
You're still watching NTA Network News. It's time for another break. The news will be back shortly.
We're back in Abuja now. History and the life experiences of a renowned politician and former president of the Senate have been documented in a book, Standing Strong. Charles Alpha reports that the book was described as a wake-up call for politicians and African leaders.
Legislative reforms, the rigors and intrigues that surrounded the third-term agenda of former President Olusegun Obasanjo and other issues of the Fifth Senate, and how the Nigerian democracy has evolved as some of the rallying points in the book, Standing Strong, authored by the former Senator Ken Nnamani.
Eternal vigilance is the price of democracy and liberty.
Our vigilance for democracy requires that we learn from our history, a history of success, a history of failure. This is why I wrote this book.
The 14 chapters book, with 495 pages, emphasized the need for leaders to stand by the truth and ensure due process, no matter the temptation or pressure.
Standing strong is an apt metaphor when a wrong decision could have critically and crucially affected the fate and fortunes of the nation.
The record of what happened, really happened, has been documented.
President Muhammadu Buhari, in a message to the event, restated his administration's commitment to consistently defend democracy and the rule of law.
These efforts, along with several others, made by the three arms and three tiers of government in the country, including the general public, helped to stabilize the polity in Nigeria.
This book of your exploits in national life and the legislature is merely the beginning of an unfolding epic, a story of national leadership in difficult times, a story of courageous and honest leadership when truth and integrity are so needed.
Of particular note is the refusal of the senator to mortgage the future of Nigerians' democracy, describing his action as a wake-up call for other African leaders to ensure accountability and economic growth.
Time for another quick break. The Nigerian Institute of Architects has conferred an award of excellence on NTA and other distinguished Nigerians who have contributed to the development of the environment and to architecture. This was at a maiden edition of the Architecture Annual Awards in Abuja. Ekene Ndulue reports.
Well-designed architecture and the connection individuals have to it is something that cannot be easily quantified. With climate change and destruction of the environment due to security challenges, the need to utilize architecture to solve these challenges has again come to the fore. Gathered in this room are some organizations and individuals who are being rewarded for supporting the use of good architecture to solve societal challenges.
We shall do everything possible to promote local content in Nigeria.
We should be able to use our imagination and creativity to create other sustainable environments.
This award is has been given to NTA for both of the reasons, to spur us to want to do more and to appreciate the little we've done.
The message out there is very clear. Whatever you're doing, the Nigerian Institute of Architects is watching, and we will recognize you for your contribution to the development of this country.
For the Senate President, it is high time legislations are made to tackle issues of building collapse and quackery in the building profession.
This time around, we should be going for legislation so that appropriate incentives will be provided and also appropriate penalties will also be provided for failures or infractions of the law.
Use of cost-effective materials for construction of affordable homes is the next in the line of thoughts considered by architects at the gathering. In Abuja, Ekene Ndulue, NTA News.
And that concludes Network News tonight. Continue to stand with the NTA against rape and rapists. I'm Cyril Stover. Good night.